life becomes very exciting when you're able to interview somebody who's making an impact on a broad range of people and who loves what she does. So we've had a little discussion about that. So I'm feeling some good energy today, and I think this will be a very, very powerful interview. So I have with me, if my memory serves me correctly, Wendy, am I right?
Yep.
All right, and your group, organization, nonprofit is?
Artists for World Peace.
And I told Wendy I might start with maybe an unorthodox, but I think a necessary question. I'm always amazed how organizations and causes sustain themselves. And it seems like you're the bell ringer, you're the director, you're everything, fairly calm about it. So tell us, how do you keep this passion and dream alive, and what is it without complicating the audience? Because some of the audiences are eating cheeseburgers now and just want to take a bite. We want them to take 2 bites and listen to you.
I think the key for me, I learned I needed to start a 501c3 nonprofit in order to grow.
501c3.
C3, yeah. So it's a nonprofit through the government. But the truth of the matter is I think of this as a vision. This whole journey that I've been on, it's a personal vision. So instead of looking too far ahead, I kind of see what I have to do. We see a lot of problems in this world. We'll focus on where we think we could be of service and dream up ways to have a positive effect on the most amount of people.
Well, you have a very nice brochure. What would the name of your nonprofit be, just so people know? What is the name, and what do you do?
So we're called Artists for World Peace.
Right.
The name came to me really, it just was the first thing I could think of. I created what's called the International Peace Belt, and that was finished in 2003.
International Peace Belt.
So I got a call from Bill Daly, who at the time was a reporter at the Hartford Courant.
Oh.
He heard that I had just moved here from New York, and he called 4 artists around the state. Right. When the European currency was being taken out of circulation back in the year 2000, he called and said, you know, what are you going to do with all this currency that's no longer good or valuable? So 2 things happened. One is I was teaching jewelry at the time, and one of my students had invited us to her premiere belly dance performance.
Yeah.
Her dream, she turned 50 years old, and she wanted to be a belly dancer. So I canceled class, and we all went to support her in solidarity. And I loved the belts that the dancers were wearing.
Right.
So I thought, you know, this would be so beautiful. I could take all the coins from around the world and weave them together and create a belt that could travel the world, worn by dancers at the time. It was my thought. And just see what happens. Just make it this living link between all the cultures of our world. So it took 2.5 years. I'm a jewelry designer, so I put the word out to all my clients who are international. I work through the Diamond District in New York, and I asked, can you send me a coin from your country? And coins just arrived. I didn't want to buy anything to make the International Peace Belt. I wanted everything donated. So that took 2.5 years, and I learned a lot through the process. I learned a lot of countries don't even have currency, or they're invaded and then they have new currency, and a lot of tribal nations use...
Well, that'd be an eye-opener to a lot of people. A lot of countries don't have currency.
It was shocking.
Who would have thought?
Right? Like even, I had a friend in Vietnam, and I asked her if she could give me a coin, and she gave me coins from all different years when Vietnam was owned by different people.
Right.
So, I mean, it was such an education. The belt is beautiful. If I couldn't get a coin from a specific country, I used gemstones that were mined in that country. Okay. So the belt was finished in 2003, and I wanted it to be blessed before it left for its world journey. I have a chief, Luciano Perez, who's my chief, and he had just passed unexpectedly. I wanted him to bless the belt. And my cousin follows this guru in India by the name of Amachi. So my cousin Sarah said, why don't I bring the belt to India? There was a huge procession of all world leaders. There were all 191 countries represented at this event. So Sarah brought the International Peace Belt. and asked Amachi to bless it. And not only did she bless it, but she put it on a woman who led this peace procession of 150,000 people. So my cousin contacted me and said, Wendy, everybody wants to wear this peace belt. North Koreans, South Koreans, Vietnamese, you have to put up a website. So I called a friend and said, could you design a website for me? And I explained what was happening.
Right.
Literally, we got this website up in 3 days. And he said, what should I call it? I said, call it Artists for World Peace. So that's how my foundation started. It was one phone call from Bill Daley. Once we had the website up and Sarah started giving the website out to people, we got 1,000 hits the first week and invitations from people around the world who wanted to be part of this vision of uniting the world.
What year was this approximately?
This was September 2003.
You remember it vividly.
Oh yeah, it changed my life.
So since that time, you've been totally immersed in growing this and nurturing this. Mm-hmm. Selling this, fundraising for this. Mm-hmm. So every day is a very busy day for you.
Every day is very busy, and I do still try to balance my time with my own living, which is jewelry designing.
Jewelry designing.
That's getting harder, though. I mean, the Artist for All Peace has really taken up the bulk of my life. What happened is once the International Peace Belt started traveling, the energy around the belt was so intense, and I wanted to leave something behind because I felt like all these people, like 150,000 people are together. What could we leave?
Right.
What kind of energy could we leave saying the International Peace Belt has been here? So I thought we could take in a child from each country, support a child, and call them our children of peace. We could create a family as the International Peace Belt travels the world, a family of children who are being raised by a group of artists.
Right.
We're in Middletown, Connecticut, but
right.
we have artists around the world that now work with us.
Talking about that, how often are you outside of Middletown, traveling, whether it's by car, train, flying? You shared with me that you were just in Africa.
Yeah.
So do you travel a lot?
I travel a lot. I just got back from South Dakota where we opened a free eye clinic for 1,250 tribal members on the Lakota Reservation, which is Rosebud. I'm in Africa. This is the first summer in many years I haven't been to Africa because I really was focused on this eye clinic, and I know the needs here are tremendous. But last year I was in Africa twice, once to open a free eye clinic and once to open a dental clinic. So I travel constantly, actually.
Well, it leads me to another question, because great things don't happen by accident. Mm-hmm. For nonprofit managers, people who want to pursue things, what do you think are your greatest gifts or things you've developed in terms of your leadership, managerial style, organizationally? You know, you're telling us your story, but there's a story behind the story. How does this work and not fail? What do? You leave here, do you follow up on emails, phone calls? How do you go with the flow yet get things done? And I think that's kind of a magic bullet for people. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they can become non-excited about what they're doing. So what do you do to stay on task and keep this thing floating? And I know you do some things.
I do a lot. One thing, well, I have a husband that I love. We've been together.
Well, that's good. That's positive.
It's very positive.
Hope he listens and hears that again.
And he's, one thing is, people who know me, they just love what we do, and they get involved. So, like this eye clinic, for instance, we brought a 35-member team of eye doctors that came from, like, ophthalmologists, optometrists, opticians.
They wanted to be a part of this.
They want
despite their incredibly busy lives.
That's right. So I think when you do great work and your intentions are really clean, people just want to be part of this.
That's magic. When you do great work, they feel positive intention, they trust, and they want to be part of it.
And the longer we've been doing our work, the more visible it is. For instance, if a doctor is saying, okay, I'm going to be gone for 10 days, I'm going with Wendy to wherever, And then we do document everything. We always bring a documentary team. And then we come back and we show the work that we just accomplished.
A documentary team, visually?
Yeah, visually. This trip to South Dakota was the largest team, and it was the largest documentary group. We had 3 filmmakers. One is an editor, 2 are filmmakers. My husband was doing sound engineering.
He goes on most trips.
Well, it's really strange. He only started traveling with me last year. We worked in Nepal together. So in all these years, well, Artists for World Peace is now 15 years old.
Right.
He's only started traveling last year. He's been kind of holding down the fort at home.
Yeah.
He's a composer. He wants to be in his own studio and be, he doesn't have that desire to travel the way I do. But it's a really good blend because he's fine staying home, and it's great to have somebody who's there.
What would you like to tell the audience here in various towns and cities in Connecticut about how to get engaged with this organization and why it would be worthwhile for them to do it? Because there's a lot of nonprofits selling tangible and non-tangible. I'm not sure what this is, nor do I have to be, but how do you want people to be invited into your world that are listening in a Farmington or a Simsbury to put down that cheeseburger and say, wow, this can enhance what you do, but I have a little rule in life. You get what you want by helping others get what they want.
Right.
So how can they get satisfaction? You can get some resources to help you. How do you want to bring them up? Why should they come on board with this? Because I personally think that message has to be given here.
I think one thing I'm really good at is bringing talent together. People have so much God-given talent and they don't even know it. For instance...
Or nobody who believed in them at a certain time, so they retreated and didn't get a chance to blossom.
Yeah, and they don't, like for me, my weak link is I'm not organized by nature.
Yeah.
I know people who are so organized. A simple thing like that, they take for granted because it's just the way their brain works. For me, mine doesn't. So when I get somebody who said, how can I help? And some people came in and did organized files, organized the office. Then they started seeing what we're doing, and then they said, hey, I can't believe all these kids that you're supporting. How can I get involved? So from one thing, coming in just to help with organization, they got involved with us.
It's a critical time for nonprofits and raising money and looking at money and things like that. And from what you're saying, you try and get them naturally and positively engaged. And then does the discussion take place of how we can support you in keeping the longevity of this alive? Because you have to be a fundraiser too.
Yeah, exactly. I think...
And maybe sometimes steady but relentless.
For me, there's 2 things. You could raise money.
Right.
You could raise friends.
Raise friends.
So for me, I'm not motivated so much by money. I'm very motivated by friendship. So, for instance, I was telling you one of our biggest fundraisers is every February. It's on Broadway.
Right.
Artists for World Peace on Broadway. So I have friends who are on Broadway.
You have friends who you, for lack of a better word, enlist and come help support me in my dream.
Or actually, it didn't work that way. They approached me, and this woman, Sharon Sayegh, is the producer of Artists for World Peace on Broadway. She came to me and said, hey, I want to bring Artists for World Peace down to Broadway. I love what you guys are doing. Let me turn my community on.
Well, that's a big-time contact.
It's huge.
That's huge.
It's huge. And her generosity, she was saying, hey, look at what Artists for World Peace does. This is my friend Wendy. And we had 25 stars come from all the top shows. It's so much fun. The audience loves it. The performers love it. And they say to me, we want to help. People want to do good. They don't know how to get started.
There was I don't know if it's the exact title, there was a book. And this philosophy, I think, is important for people who want to be part of a growing nonprofit. Share your dream, or do what you do best, and the money will follow. So is that what we're hearing? And the money will follow, and your engine is the friends, and then the natural conversations that come out of that.
Exactly.
You're not a door-to-door salesman. You're a relationship salesperson.
And plus, I have a lot of people who are very involved.
And that's not a bad word. Salesperson is not a bad.
It's not, no. And the thing is, it's not only money I'm interested in, because so much of our work is done with in-kind donations.
In-kind, yes.
So some people are motivated by cash because I understand it, we need cash. But for me, for instance, if a 35-member team comes,
right.
and I have 20 doctors who provide care to people.
So that's the in-kind, their expertise.
In-kind. Yeah. They're giving. I don't pay people to travel with us.
Right.
So the doctors come, they're volunteers. They're giving of their talent, their time, their money. You know, this eye clinic that we just came back from, when I have a lead optician who travels to Africa with me, and he led this eye clinic with me. We sat down. We needed $448,000
right.
to provide the kind of care we wanted to give to 1,250 tribal members.
Wow.
Now, $448,000 could come in with cash, or it could come in, we could get eyeglasses donated, we could get frames donated, we could get the doctors donated. All of that comes off the amount that we need to make this happen. So I love the idea that we could be creative.
I could see your passion rising.
I love it.
We could see it in your face, in your intonation.
It's exciting.
Well, that's why this is a great interview.
Yeah, thank you.
So my question would be, what's the next horizon and when is it? Where are we going? Are we going to Africa? Are we going out to South Dakota? Are we having a big event? What's the next thing that you're planning, saying, wow, I can't wait?
I have a few. We gave a 10-year commitment in Tanzania that we accomplished. We finished the 10-year commitment last July. So what we said is, we're going to help sustain this orphanage that we now have a partner there, Josephine Mashua. She's a Tanzanian woman who built an orphanage on her mom's property. What happened in 2003 was AIDS just ravaged her village.
I was going to say, who are these kids?
Yeah.
You know, how do they end up at the orphanage? Was it because their parents died of AIDS? Mm-hmm. Maybe they have the AIDS, but the scourge of that. So that was real.
Oh, it was very, very real. And Josephine, and by the way, the Peace Belt was in Tanzania.
Right.
A woman from Connecticut called and said, I have breast cancer. I saw the International Peace Belt. I have a vision. She called me from the hospital.
She saw it.
She saw it.
Where did she see it?
When it was in Vietnam. The International Peace Belt was brought to Vietnam by filmmakers who were going back to make peace with the family members of Vietnamese that they had killed during the war.
Wow.
So they asked to bring the International Peace Belt on this peace mission. This is the fascinating thing. The International Peace Belt is its own story. It's unbelievable where it's been. And when it came back from Vietnam, the stones that we had put on this belt, which were rubies and emeralds and sapphires, they turned black. We got the belt back from Vietnam, and these stones, they died. They were no longer vital. So I called a friend of mine and I said, you have to see what just happened here. And she said, you know, it was such an intense trip that the healing stones were just depleted. They came back depleted. So I asked her, could she do a blessing ceremony with the International Peace Belt? So this woman, her name is Chantal Laliberte. She lives in Connecticut.
You know some people with interesting names.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to pronounce them.
So, and I didn't know how to pronounce hers. I said it wrong.
Neither do I. I don't think I ever will.
And she saw this blessing of the International Peace Belt and heard the story of how it's traveling around the world and how we're creating a family in every country in which we pass. So she said, can I wear this? There's a Mount Kili climb where cancer survivors are going to climb the summit. They'll summit Mount Kilimanjaro. She had a vision that she was summiting this mountain wearing the International Peace Belt. I said, of course you could. It's available to anybody, anywhere in the world.
Well, that is an interest to me. As part of my life as a motivational speaker, a lot of groups bring me in, but I've done for many years cancer survivor events, Hartford Hospital, Backus Hospital, and it's now in May and June. So anything to attack the scourge of that disease, to to change one life, you change a family. You've seen too many people whose heart has been broken. So I'm very encouraged. I'm in love with that idea about this survivor.
It's fabulous.
Doing that.
And she did summit. She summited the mountain.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
And I said to her, if while you're in Tanzania, if you meet anyone who's a peacekeeper or a performer, anyone who wants to put their energy into the International Peace Belt, let them wear the belt. So she heard about this woman, Josephine Machua, who went to sell her mom's property, and as Josephine said, she put on the belt, and Chantal recorded her, and she said, our property was littered with orphans. I need help. I need to grow this orphanage. So I saw this video of her wearing the belt, telling her story, and I contacted her and I said, I'm going to come and I'll partner with you.
Let me ask you this, because we're going to be headed into the final minutes of the first interview. It feels like 2 minutes, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
A little bit about you personally, you know, because I think people need to know this. You strike me, and to make this work, especially in a nonprofit, do you think resilience is a main strength of yours? Are you a resilient person when some people tell you no, whether it's with involvement, money, or funds? I know darn well that you got to have a little resilient candle in you. You want to tell me about that?
Yeah, I take no as a gift, because people.
So I knew something was up here.
Yeah, people who are meant to be in our energy circle.
Right.
They don't say no, they say yes. And when people say no, I don't take anything personally. I think that's my biggest advice to anybody wanting to do any kind of work is, you know, just follow your passion.
Right.
And don't take anything too personally. Don't even take the yeses too personally, you know? But definitely don't take no's personally. There's reasons people don't help. Maybe they're not meant to help. Maybe it's not a good fit.
But you can still have a business-like mentality, and if they say no, you can still say thank you. Don't burn a bridge.
Absolutely.
And you got to move on.
That's it.
Otherwise, what you have is something that can perish very quickly. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Yep.
And I know I do that. One of my passions is I run a very high-level pro-am men's basketball team, and we're always looking for in Hartford sponsors and funds and things like that. So you have to have the ability to be able to say no and then have the energy knowing that when the yes comes, that's going to feel good and benefit a lot of people. So resilience is bouncing back. Resilience is still engaging people. And resilience, I would say, you speak about your personal life perhaps, getting that good night's sleep. When do you turn the wheels off? How do you take care of yourself? Because you're only human. Would that be true?
Yeah, that's true. I think, well, being in my studio is that's my sacred space.
And that's in Middletown.
That's in Middletown. I designed for department stores, and I do commission work. I don't design for department stores anymore because of Artists for World Peace. Every department store has deadlines. So, for instance, an order for Saks Fifth Avenue. If I have, I have to make 2,000 pieces of jewelry, and there's a deadline, and it's due January 1st.
And they want you to make it.
I do make it, and I have help. I have jewelers that work for me, but I design everything.
But every piece that goes out has to be representative of your expertise.
Yeah.
Because people buy from expertise, and they also buy from people that they like.
Yeah.
So you have apparently found a blend that has benefited this tremendously.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I've been a jewelry designer for 42 years.
Yeah, and I think the audience can see that representationally, you're not shy about wearing that jewelry.
No, I love it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Well, very good.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap up this first part by saying we look forward to a second part of an interview.
Sounds good.
And it's fantastic, and I think your resilience and brilliance shines through, and it's no wonder that this is going to continue to be a success.
Thank you.
And open some new doors.
Thank you.
So thank you, and we will continue the journey together.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Good.
My pleasure.
My pleasure.
She didn't interrupt me once.
That means you did a great job.
Well, it means something happened. Takes two to tango.
How did you know that it was over? Did she tell you?
She had 5 minutes. I don't wear a watch. So I'm estimating that we're either close to the 5 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if we were within 30 seconds. When I speak, I always designate. I was Friday speaking to a big healthcare group. I said, just tell me when there's 5 minutes so I can bring the plane in for a landing as best I can.
Right.
Usually it'll go over that.
Yeah.
So it's an estimation. I don't use a GPS at all when I travel. I've traveled so much that I can know if I'm going north or south. When 84 was closed yesterday, I had to make a decision about to loop back and go, as long as you're moving.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
This makes me happy because I'm finding in the young people, they're losing that common sense.
Oh, it's confidence. You have to be there. You have to be there a certain amount of times to know you're good in anything you do. Have to be there. So then you can not overgeneralize what a total failure and you take the drama out of what you do.
Right.
Keep the heart in what you do.
Right.
So the basketball, my next question is, does your organization take whatever is raised? Now, do you give to other nonprofits? You do?
We do.
Interesting.
We give so much of what we bring in to other nonprofits.
I'm interested in that for my passion. This is a thing I do where we help players live their dreams. We take high school kids. I have an at-risk program for kids, 6, 7, and 8. They sit on the bench. They have to help with the statistics and things like that. And I ran the model school in the state of Massachusetts for the most seriously disturbed kids they could find. So you learn patience, resilience, and you learn that some people are born under a lucky star, and you give back to help others.
That's
because here's something
true.
you know: what goes around comes around. You live and breathe it.
Totally.